Hello everybody, welcome to Gear Talk episode 3. My name is Pye.
And I'm Joe.
And well, today is all about Sony. Yes. Moreover, the Sony A7, the A7R, the A7S, and our handy dandy family of accessories and lenses here. But before we get into that, Joe, what are you drinking today?
I am drinking an extra large Coke because this morning I had an extra large burrito and you need an extra large Coke to wash that down.
That didn't make any sense. It was like what you just said. It was like, I'm gonna have something unhealthy, so I'm gonna add on something more unhealthy.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna do something big, you might as well get the other thing that's equivalent big. Like if you're gonna jump out of a big plane, you're gonna want a big parachute to help you fall.
That's the first thing you said that makes sense. Go big or go home.
Exactly.
I like that. I have today the last Crystal Pepsi in existence.
Wow. That's amazing. It must taste terrible because it must be so old.
It's actually fantastic.
I don't believe you. That actually just looks like water.
It is. This is actually a Diet Pepsi Wild Cherry. I treated myself to this because I haven't had a soda in a long time.
You deserve it.
I wanted something nice yesterday, so I got that. And now I just fill it with water. It's now my water bottle.
Good.
Okay.
Recycling.
Enough about our drinks. Let's talk about what we have here. So this is also going to be basically our review of the Sony system and what we have to say about it. And this is the great thing is that from my perspective, I probably will end up selling my A7R, but this guy over here absolutely loves his system. And so you're going to get kind of two perspectives on this Sony system that we have. So let's first talk about it. We have the A7R, which is basically their high resolution version of this camera. This is the ultra high resolution. I got it because, well, I wanted it for, say, studio shots and things where we basically, it's kind of the closest thing you can get to medium format without going medium format. I mean, this, the D800E, like these are the, closest thing you can get before.
Yeah, the full frame high megapixel cameras.
Absolutely.
Definitely one of them.
And it looks fantastic. But then we also have the A7.
Yep.
Which is kind of the more all-around camera, right?
It's kind of like, yeah, their middleweight class camera. It has everything that you would want from both sides.
And then we have the A7S.
Which is their low-light monster. I use this professionally for both stills and video. And, oh man, what you can get from it from such little light, it's not only usable, but it looks fantastic. It's great.
Yeah, and so from the resolution side, we have basically 12, 24, right?
Yeah.
And then 37?
36, 37.
36, 37?
Yeah.
So basically, those are the kind of different options that you have. Now, let's talk first just about overall performance of these cameras. And this is where I don't have that much bad thing to say about any of these cameras, right? I mean, performance-wise, from the resolution of the A7R is absolutely fantastic. The way that it can resolve detail, the files that you get out of it, the dynamic range, the quality of the images is absolutely incredible. What would you say about your A7 and A7S?
I would definitely say that you can get professional results from these cameras. I think there's a stigma about mirrorless cameras because I actually sold all of my Canon equipment and switched over to the system. And the first question I get is, well, is it good enough for professional work? And it absolutely is. And so from the performance side, it's great. My only ding that I might ding off a star is the startup time is atrocious.
Yeah.
Whenever I turn,
it's like 3 seconds.
Yeah. The thing about mirrorless camera too is when you change lenses, which I do frequently, you have to turn off the camera. Otherwise, because the sensor is as soon as
charged and visible.
Yeah, charged and visible. It literally vacuums the dust inside and just gets stuck on the sensor.
I think I learned that lesson with my GH3, actually. I had a Panasonic GH3, and I took it out shooting, and within a day, for the first day that I was shooting some sports cars and stuff, and by the end of the day, it just was filled with dust. I'm like, what the heck happened to this thing? And then I read later on, yes, you're supposed to turn it off before switching lenses.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh.
But performance too, they give you 3 options depending on your style of shooting. So if you
Exactly.
if you need a high megapixel performing camera, you have the A7R. For general shooting, you have the A7, and then for extreme low light, you have the A7S.
My main thing from a performance standpoint is the focusing system. I found it to be very clumsy. Basically trying to change my focus in a quick manner. First of all, it required me to actually set up a custom function to be able to access the dial to be able to change my focus position and everything. And then from there, I would constantly basically hit other things that would change the focus or change the focusing option, or I couldn't land it on the specific area that I needed, and I would miss shots because I'm sitting here trying to ding around with this clumsy focus system. That is an area that I can deal with the slow startup time, and I wouldn't even ding it for that. I would ding it 1 major star for that one thing, that focusing system, because I have missed shots because of it.
Okay, yeah. No, I agree. There is Because I use actually the DSLR lenses with it too. It uses the focusing system inside their adapter, and it is not that good. It's almost as it reminds me of shooting with the 5D Mark II, where I have to rely on the center focus and then focus and recompose. So it's tough.
Absolutely. So the focusing. Okay, so you have the same experience there. So I would say definitely one big ding as far as focus goes.
One nice thing is it does have AF point assist, which the Canon cameras, the professional Canon cameras don't have, and so it does.
Strangely.
You know, in low light, it does help. But even with that, it does struggle.
How about on the feature side?
The feature side, I think it's great. Every one of these cameras has it has 3 custom buttons that you can program, but then you can also program the individual dials on the D-pad. You can also program the center button and this function button. And so it's really tough because you program all these things, and when you go to shoot on maybe your buddy's A7, like if I were to shoot on your A7R, I would be completely lost.
Yeah, no, totally.
Because it is, when you set your functions, I guess that's actually a pro and a con. Because 1, you can set all your functions, but then 2, it's so hard to go through the menu to find the proprietary way to get to these functions through the menu system.
But yeah, from a function or a feature standpoint, I would say that there wasn't anything that was lacking on my camera. There wasn't anything lacking about the system. If I wanted, whatever it is that I wanted a highlight alert. In fact, I found the EVF to be fantastic. I mean, being able to have an EVF where you're viewing in that live view, basically the histogram and all those things live is fantastic.
Also recording, because especially like when you're recording in bright sunlight, it is almost a lifesaver because you don't have to like kind of shade. You can actually look into the EVF and you get the perfect exposure every time. And then going with that,
you also have your focus patterns too.
Yeah,
right?
you have your focus peaking, you have your zebraing, you have in-camera magnifying, and you have audio recording levels. And you can change all those while recording. Yeah, which is the biggest part for me. It was actually the biggest reason why I switched from the Canon 5D Mark III to this Sony system, was being able to change all of those really at the touch of a button, because I set all my custom buttons for those, and to be able to change all those while recording.
Yeah. So I would probably say from a feature standpoint, it definitely has everything I would want and need in a still camera and in a DSLR video camera.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it 5 stars.
I give it 5 out of 5 stars too.
Okay, now let's talk about the design. The design, the usability, all those things. This is where I have to give it major dings. This is basically my main issue with this entire camera system, is that I don't find, I mean, the design of the camera body itself, it looks sexy, it's great, it's designed well, it's made well. I mean, I have nothing wrong with that part of it. It's the interface components. It's the way that this thing is laid out that is an absolute, in my mind, a train wreck to be able to pick up. And like you said, every one of these buttons on the backside are all customizable, and that's great. But the reason probably why that they're all customizable is because you literally have to customize them. You have to customize them to your exact shooting preferences, your shooting style, because the way that it comes, you're gonna have a hard time doing things right off the bat. Like for me, I had a hard time I was like, where do I control my focus? How do I get my focus to move to the position that I want it? How do I change different focus types? So the first thing I had to do was actually program buttons just to handle my focus, which is something that I never had to do on my 5D3. It was like, oh, there's a little D-pad there, I can do that. On my D800, oh, there's a D-pad there, I can do that. It became an issue on this. So that was my issue. What do you have on
For me, it's, when I started shooting with this, it was really hard because I would often bump things, because it is a small camera, the buttons are so close together, and they're all kind of fragile, and the D-pad clicks too in different ways. It's very easy. I always find myself kind of like, why am I at that ISO? And it's because I accidentally bumped the dial. Yeah, while you're shooting. Another thing is, because it's such a small camera, and this is actually why I bought grips for both my cameras, is after a whole day of shooting, because I really only have room for these 3 fingers, my pinky hangs off, and so my hand gets really tired and cramped by the end of the day.
Yeah, so I agree 100%. That's why I got my grip too, and also the actual ergonomics of the way that you hold the camera. It left my I don't know, my middle finger. Yeah. Actually feeling painful right here because it like kind of digs into it just the whole time. And shooting this way was kind of awkward, especially like going back and forth. The grip is definitely a must-have. I got the grip as soon as I got the camera. I was like, I have to have a grip for this. Yeah. But on the design side, on the usability side, I don't know. I don't know if this is too harsh, but in my mind, it deserves 1 star.
I would not go as far as 1 star. I would probably go around 3, just because I do like the design. One thing I like is that everything is right-hand controlled, so I never have to use. I think on the 60, when I'm recording video and I want to adjust like white balance, I have to actually press like the white balance button and then like info and then set it. This I can do everything with my right hand. And also something the professional Canon cameras don't have is this kind of tilt-out screen. And so when I want to go up high or want to go down low, I don't have to like go down low with the viewfinder like a savage, or I can, you can do it like, a proper gentleman would.
Because savages,
they do
shoot on Sonys against the ground.
The other way around.
Okay, so I'm going to say then that we compromise on that and go with 2 stars. 3 stars would be average, and I think it's below average. He thinks it's average.
I think it's average. I'm
going to say it's a little below average. I'm going to go then, I don't know, 2 stars I think is fair. We're going to compromise in the middle.
Okay, split the difference. 2 stars on design.
Split the difference. 2 stars on the design and ease of use and kind of usability side.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, so that leaves us with basically quality and value. Well, we talked about quality and the performance side. There, again, across the board with image quality, fantastic. Low light sensitivity, fantastic. Dynamic range, absolutely incredible. The lens lineup that they do have, the lenses that they do have, the Zeiss lenses they do have are fantastic.
Yeah.
But that gives you another issue, though, which is the lenses they do have available are not that many. There's not a lot there. But again, on the quality side, if we're just talking about the quality of the images that you're getting, I'd give it 5 stars.
I'd give it, definitely 5 out of 5 stars, just because I think, because Zeiss Lenses is kind of something that you hear about. It's like it has such a prestige to it, and it definitely, when you start shooting with them, you see why, because there's something about like the crispness.
I thought you were gonna say the Christmas. Like the Christmas.
There's something about the sharpness.
Zeiss lens.
Yeah, the sharpness and the contrast that you get from the lenses that are just unmatched.
No, it's true. The contrast, the colors, Zeiss lenses are fantastic. The camera body itself is built really well. I have nothing to say wrong about the quality side. I don't think anybody would ever have an issue on that side. How about value?
Value is tough to gauge. I mean, it's because their most expensive camera is the A7S, which is about $2,500. But when you think about what it can do, and it is, I think this is kind of in a new generation of low light monstrosity. I think the first camera I ever saw that I was really impressed with was probably the Nikon D3, where that was probably the first camera you were able to shoot at ISO 6400 and get really usable images. This one pushes it up to almost, I was shooting at 80,000.
That's insane.
And I felt like they looked amazingly well. I mean, it's just the way that the detail I could see, and the, you saw gradients in the black. It wasn't just like crushed blacks and crushed whites. It was, you actually saw details in the shadows and the highlights. And it was amazing for both stills and video.
Yeah. I think across the board, for what you're getting in each of these cameras, again, I can't fault the value of at least not the camera bodies themselves. Some of the lenses I feel like are expensive for what you're getting. But again, the image quality is fantastic. And so it's difficult to say, because I think while the price points are expensive, for what you're getting, they are a good value. And for what they can do, they are a good value. And for that reason, I'm not going to ding them at all on the value side. I'm going to say it's probably 5 stars. Okay, so overall, we have a very great opinion of this. The real question here is, you sold everything you own to have this system.
Yes.
Now, I bought this just on the side to basically try out, and it was supposed to be my vacation camera, basically, which for that purpose I thought is pretty awesome because it's small. It kind of travels really well. The question is, if you had to do all over again, would you buy everything that you did?
I would. I absolutely would. I started just like you. I started with this camera on the side with the 24-70, the A7, and I realized, I think I could really replace all of my Canon gear with this system and be not only happy but excel at what start pushing my creative boundaries because of what the camera was capable of. And then when the A7S came out, I completely sold everything I had and committed to the system because it did really push my creative boundaries into a direction I liked.
I'm going to say on my side that I probably am going to end up selling the system. I'm not going to end up keeping it, just for the reason that the main side for me is the design and the usability side. I found that I was missing shots oftentimes because of the clumsy nature of these buttons and the way that they're laid out, and it's so tight, and the way that you're working and operating this back-end system, you're having a hard time switching focus. And then oftentimes when I try to be adjusting my focus into a new position, I would accidentally click the dial ever so slightly, and then it would switch into a different focus mode. And then I'd have to go back and then, escape out and then redo it. And in that instant, I'd missed what I was trying to capture.
Yeah.
Not to mention the frame rate wasn't that fast, but that's not why you're buying this. But the focusing thing, that was an issue to me.
Yeah.
The difficulty of having to basically go through and learn the custom function just to get it to work the way that you want it to was an annoyance to me. The other thing, and this is probably one of the biggest factors, is the fact that they don't have the lens lineup that I need, that I want yet. I want a 2470 f2.8. I want a 7200 f2.8. I want my primes. I want all these things, and I want them designed for this body without having to get these adapters.
Yeah.
I want all those things ready to go, and that's probably my biggest issue here. This camera, to me, it looks so fantastic, and I want it to be so amazing, and on paper it is. But when I bring it into my shooting life, it isn't.
Yeah.
So for those reasons, I can't necessarily recommend it. I can say that it's an incredible camera. I can say that you won't be disappointed at all with the image quality, but because I am so disappointed with the design and the usability and the functionality and the lack of lenses and all those things, it is the camera that I will not end up keeping.
I can understand that, because when people ask me, they ask me in the studio, I'm the only one that shoots on the system exclusively now. They ask me, should I sell all my Canon stuff? And it's really hard for me to recommend, because there are inconveniences that I can overcome myself, because they're not that big of a deal for me personally. But then I know that those issues are there, and it's hard for a professional to get over them, because you can, like you said, miss shots.
Yeah.
And that can make or break a career.
Let's talk about some other inconveniences. Now, I mentioned those. Mine I feel like those are very big issues to me. Inconveniences, the EVF at nighttime.
Okay. You don't like it.
The EVF at nighttime on my A7R is so slow. Like, I can move like this, and it just sits there ghosting back and forth as you try to shoot in low light.
Yeah.
And you can't see clearly through it. It's very difficult to use, and if you try and zoom in to get a focus like manually, that's going to be really difficult. How about battery life?
Battery life. Oh,
what is this?
It is.
Look at this. Reveal the mountain of batteries that you have behind those two lenses. Show them.
To shoot professionally, for a full day of shooting, you need at least 4 batteries. I think these batteries are rated at about 1,000 milliamps per.
For one day of stills.
For one day of stills, 4 batteries. But then for one day of video, you need 10. And this isn't, I didn't. These are actually all the batteries I own, because I need this many to be comfortable to go out on a full day shoot.
And that's like, these are expensive right now, aren't they?
They're not cheap.
Yeah. Aren't those like $80 a piece right now?
They are, but there are some third-party batteries in here that I can recommend, and I'll put those links also in the article. Okay,
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like I had to buy extras for mine too. You get like, I think I was getting around 250 to 300 shots off of a single battery.
That sounds about right. Yeah,
with my stills.
It's a little bit more bearable because you have the grip, and so you can go about half a day with the grip on. But then even still, you do need a bunch of these kind of going through your case.
Pretty much that's saying you need 4 batteries if your shooting day consists of maybe 1,000 to 1,200 images.
Exactly.
If your shooting day consists of 2 to 2,500 images, then you're going to need 2,000 to 2,500 images. Yeah. You're going to need 8 batteries. That was another, I thought, inconvenience that was really annoying. Again, with the grip, it's not so bad that if it didn't have the grip, I would say I'm not even going to touch this for, say, a wedding. With the grip, it's not terrible because you're basically switching out like every 3 to 4 hours. You're going the 2 batteries, which is about the same as you might with your actual CF card or your memory card. Well, SD card in these cases. Yeah. Also, but if it didn't have that, that'd be gnarly.
One thing I wanted to bring up, because you said there aren't a lot of lenses for this lineup, and he's absolutely right. I think there's only 4 native lenses for the full frame Sony system, which is the we have 2 of them here, the 55 and the Sony Zeiss 24-70 f4. I think they make a 7200 f4 and a 35mm 2.8. But what you also can do is because it's a mirrorless system, you can actually use a lot of old film rangefinder lenses as well as Konica Minolta mounted A-mount lenses with the adapter. And
then there's also like the Metabone adapters. You can use your Canon lenses and Nikon lenses, whatever you got, basically.
Yeah, it's really neat because you can find a lot of these lenses pretty at great values at like either thrift stores and on eBay. And I would not recommend this unless this camera had the magnifying, well, focus peaking too, but the focus peaking I feel like is only accurate up to 2.8, but then it also has in-camera magnification.
Okay.
And so you can get really sharp shots. I use actually this. I have a Voigtlander 50mm 1.1, and at 1.1 it's really soft. But when I swap it down to about 1.4 or 2.0, it's really great, and I can get really accurately focused images because of the focus magnifier inside the EVF.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And that was the first time, probably the first time in my career, I found it very comfortable manually focusing and not even like worrying about whether I'm getting the shots or not. I was actually going to events and shooting fully on manual focusing the entire time and not being, and it was actually easier to me because I got so annoyed with having to move my AF all over. I'm just like, look, I'm just gonna do manual focusing this time, and it worked with my focus peaking. I thought was fantastic.
Yeah.
And then the magnification.
It's hard to say.
I know. I learned basically with the focus peaking, once you get used to it, I could snap a shot like incredibly quickly, like get my focus and take the shot within a quarter of a second, and it would be accurate. So that's one thing that I really loved about the system. Was the first time that I thought, hey, I can pick up all my old lenses and use it with this and actually be comfortable shooting manual this entire time. So they're good things. I guess you got to take them, the good things with the bad. But I thought the two experiences were really unique because my experience definitely hasn't been the same as yours.
And my experience has been fantastic.
Yeah. Okay, so that's it for episode 3. And this has been kind of enlightening for me too, because I feel like we have two sides of the same coin going on. And I'm going to kind of say, on my side, I'm going to give it a little bit of a thumbs down, just for the reasons that I mentioned. The lenses that I need are not there. The focus system, the clumsiness of the design and interface, and all those kind of nuances and annoying things of the system.
For me, it's definitely a thumbs up. I love the lens choices I have. I love the camera's capabilities and functionality. And I've committed to the system, and I have no regrets.
Yeah, you have no choice, man.
I don't.
See you guys all in the next episode.
Bye.